Thank you, everybody. Such a pleasure to be here today at Heartland Forest. Thank you to Dan Bowman for having us here today. It's an absolutely wonderful venue, which I'm sure you will all take some time to discover if you haven't already another time. So here we are, 18, 19, 20 months. It's a bit of a blur since 2019. As many of you know, I've been on the campaign trail almost since the day after the last election. And it is because of all of you. Thank you. It's because of all of you that I'm here today. And my heart is truly full. I cannot tell you what it means to have so many amazing friends, supporters, and family here today, and to have this occasion when we have a very, very special guest. Absolutely incredible to have Justin Trudeau here today. He needs no introduction, the leader of the Liberal Party. And and I am very excited for Tuesday, Monday, whenever the results come. We are poised to turn this riding red after 20 years of conservatism. I truly believe it's our time, and I'm so grateful to have you here with me today. And of course, so grateful to have you here as well, Justin. Thank you.
Let's give another huge round of applause for Andrea, your outstanding candidate here in Niagara Falls. I am so excited to be here today with Andrea, with Vance, and with Chris, and with all of you to talk about the big choice Canadians get to make tomorrow. It is unbelievable how much work all of you and volunteers like you across the country have done over the past number of weeks to get this message out to Canadians about the really important moment we're in, the really important choice Canadians get to make about how we're going to move our country forward for everyone. Because this is one of those moments where we know our decisions, our choice, our voices matter so deeply. So that all of you having come out today to enjoy, to be together, to charge up, to have some barbecues, to share this energy and the excitement that we're all feeling about what tomorrow's going to bring is wonderful. And get rested and play and laugh and fill your bellies, because tomorrow you're working really hard to get the vote out across Niagara. We need to bring Andrea to Ottawa. We need to bring back Vance and Chris. We need to make sure from coast to coast to coast, great Liberals are elected to move Canada forward. Parce qu'on est dans un moment maintenant où le choix est extrêmement important pour les Canadiens. Nous pouvons choisir d'en finir avec la pandémie. Nous pouvons choisir de rebâtir avec de l'ambition, avec de la vision, avec un gouvernement qui reflète nos valeurs progressistes d'un bout de l'autre du pays. Et c'est ça le moment dans lequel nous sommes. Et c'est pour ça que les Canadiens sont aussi excités et enthousiastes pour la journée demain. Know that we're at a crossroads right now in this country. We're in a moment right now where we need to take big decisions as citizens, but also as a government, on how we end this pandemic for good, on how we move forward to step up even further on the fight against climate change, how we move forward to support families, including with things like $10 a day childcare and things like a real housing strategy. We get to shape the future because the decisions that your government will be making over the coming weeks and months, not a year from now, not 2 years from now, matters deeply. And that's why we're in this election, because you and Canadians like you right across the country learned an awful lot through this pandemic, showed that you were there for each other through this pandemic, and now you get to weigh in on the path our country's going to take, not just through the coming months as we get through this pandemic, but over the coming years and decades. That's why this moment matters. And we've seen the Conservatives, as usual, talk a lot about economics and the economy and growing the economy, but again, they start with a faulty premise. They continue to start with the idea that trickle-down economics, that giving tax breaks to the wealthiest, continues to be what grows an economy, that it'll eventually trickle down to the rest of us. Well, it doesn't. It never has. It never will. The only way to grow a strong economy for the future is to invest, as we have over the past 6 years, in the middle class and people working hard to join it. Over the past 6 years, we demonstrated what a thoughtful, engaged, focused look at the economy and how to create growth actually looked like. First thing we did, we cut taxes for the middle class by raising them on the wealthiest 1%. We then delivered a Canada Child benefit that puts hundreds of dollars a month tax-free into the pockets of families that need it. That lifted 400,000 kids out of poverty over the past few years. And even as we were lifting 1 million Canadians in total out of poverty, we were creating 1 million jobs across the country. That's the economic growth we need. To take a perfect example, we know we're facing a serious housing crisis right now across the country. We have, as you all know as good Liberals, a very strong, multifaceted plan to both invest in more supply by putting $4 billion in the pockets of municipalities over the coming years, to help young families with tens of thousands of dollars of support so that they can buy their first home faster. We're going to stand up for people's rights as well, even as we create new innovative programs like rent to own. The Conservative solution on housing: give $500 million in tax breaks to the wealthiest landlords to help them sell their buildings. That doesn't make any sense unless you still believe in trickle down, which doesn't work. So there's the proof point. But the big thing, it is, even as they're talking about growing the economy once again, not understanding that you need to grow you need to support people. You need to be there to invest in families to get there. They also don't understand that the only way we can talk about growing our economy, about building a better future, about creating opportunities and jobs for everyone, is to get done with this pandemic as quickly as possible. You know this. Almost 80% of Canadians know this very, very well because you stepped up. You were there to protect your neighbors. You were there to support seniors and elders. You were there to protect your family. You were there to hunker down, to wear a mask, to wash your hands 25 times a day. And when we got vaccines into this country, months ahead of schedule, enough for everyone to get vaccinated, you got vaccinated. And to continue to get over the line, to make sure we're getting as many people vaccinated as possible so we can avoid some of the challenges that they're seeing now in Alberta and in Saskatchewan, we need clear, strong leadership that is going to continue to unequivocally push vaccines, and that's what we will do. Mr. O'Toole, he can't and he won't. He won't even ensure that the people he is directly leading, his 300 or so candidates across the country, that he is directly the leader of, he can't even ensure that they're all getting vaccinated, let alone the Canadians, 37 million of us that he's proposing to lead. That's not leadership. In fact, we just found out that even as he was saying publicly to Canadians, please go get vaccinated, it's the safe and right thing to do, he was telling his candidates, those who did get vaccinated, not to publicly share that they got vaccinated. What kind of example is that? Why would he possibly tell people who, according to him, did the right thing and got vaccinated to not tell anyone they got vaccinated? Why? Because he doesn't want to embarrass the anti-vaxxers in his party. Every step of the way, he is not thinking about you and the things that we need to do to stay safe, to get through this. He is focused on appeasing and pandering to the special interests within his party. Whether it's letting anti-vaxxers continue to spread misinformation as candidates, whether it's allowing a candidate and encouraging a candidate who wasn't fully vaxxed to go visit seniors' homes in Peterborough, whether it's continuing to not realize that for all his talk of defending freedoms and defending choice, he's not thinking about your freedoms and your choice, the choice you made to do the right thing for your neighbors, for your kids who can't yet get vaccinated, for our elders, for our frontline workers, for the healthcare workers who continue to struggle even though they're being protested increasingly. He's not standing up for your freedom to get back to the things you want to do because you did your part for yourself and your neighbor and your community by getting vaccinated. We need to focus on you, on the people who've done the right thing for their neighbors. And he's not. We're going to make sure that in the coming months, when you decide it's time to take a vacation or to travel across the country to see your family, you're not going to worry that your 7-year-old son or granddaughter is going to be sitting beside an anti-vaxxer or someone who isn't vaccinated on a plane. We shouldn't be putting our kids at risk. So on planes and trains, which are federal areas of responsibility, everyone needs to be vaccinated. In the federal public service, everyone needs to be vaccinated. And we are working to support and even foot the bill for every province that wants to move forward on vaccination passports that will let everyone who's done the right thing get back to normal as quickly as possible, to go back to restaurants and movie theaters and gyms and all those things that we've missed so much over the past 18 months that we don't want to see at risk again. And unfortunately, we're seeing right now what happens when there isn't that determined, strong leadership that is there to stand up for the people who've been there for each other. We're seeing cases spike in Alberta. We're seeing lockdowns come back, public health restrictions brought back in, and of course, we're seeing the economy slow down because of it. You don't deserve that. You deserve a government and a leader that's going to stand up for your rights, and that's what we're going to do every step of the way. But just as you can't have leadership on the economy if you don't have leadership on vaccines, you can't have leadership on the economy if you didn't commit to being there for people like we did, having your backs every step of the way. Because what we did with the CERB, what we did with the wage subsidy, with the rent subsidy, with the supports for businesses, not only allowed us to get through this pandemic well, it also has allowed our economy to come roaring back faster than just about anywhere else in the world. That's what he doesn't get either. Doing the right thing and having Canadians' backs, as I promised every time I stepped out of my house during those first weeks of that pandemic, those first many months, I said, we have your backs, and we did. And that wasn't just about doing the right thing, although it was also about knowing that if we could just hold and not break, if small businesses could hang in there and keep the link with their workers so that they could come back, if industries could pause and know that they were going to make it through and come roaring back quickly, we'd be far better off. And right now, Canada has recovered over 95% of the jobs we lost in our pandemic, compared to 76% for the US. We've done the right things together, and you deserve a government and a leader that stands up for you. But just as Mr. O'Toole is in the pocket of anti-vaxxers, not focused on you, we've seen it in his pandering to the gun lobby, in proposing to bring back military-style assault weapons that we made illegal over a year ago. Shame on him. That's not what Canadians want. We see Mr. O'Toole trying to pretend that he's pro-choice, but I'm sorry, a pro-choice leader would make sure that he didn't have 80 of his own MPs voting to restrict women's rights in the last parliament. We will stand up for women's rights. And further, you can't pretend you have a plan for the economy if you don't understand that getting everyone back into the workforce with better choices is necessary, particularly because in this pandemic, we know women were harder hit than any other group. That's why we're moving forward with $10 a day childcare, quality spaces, 250,000 of them right across the country. And Mr. O'Toole, he's planning on ripping that up because he doesn't understand that it's not just great for kids, it's not just great for families, including saving thousands upon thousands of dollars that is spent right now on childcare, but it's also fundamentally good for the economy. That's why business leaders and small businesses are asking for $10 a day childcare, and that's the choice that is before Canadians right now. And finally, because I could go on, but I know I want to get around and see as many of you as I can. Finally, you don't have a plan for jobs and growth. You don't have a plan for the economy, for workers. You don't have a plan for the future of the country if you don't have a serious plan to fight climate change. This is a spectacularly beautiful part of the country. Andrea has worked all her life in the tourism and hospitality sector here in Niagara, and you all know how important it is to welcome people here to protect and celebrate our natural world, our beauty, our wines. We need to make sure we are continuing to protect all that we have to offer and all that we can draw the world to. Now, well, people won't come if we're not protecting them from the virus, if we're not getting a handle on things, but people also won't feel like Canada is really the place to come or to visit or to look at or to buy from if we don't show real leadership on the fight against climate change. And what Mr. O'Toole is proposing is to go to the global follow-up to the Paris conference of a few years ago in Glasgow this fall and tell people not only are we not going to have much ambition, we're actually going to bring in new targets that are weaker than the current targets that Canada has for emissions reduction. We're going to go backwards at a time when scientists and researchers and experts are all telling us we need to move forward faster. And that sort of brings us to something we all know. As progressives, as people who care about the planet, about climate change, we have to listen to experts. We have to listen to the climate scientists and the economists and the researchers who are telling us we need to act ambitiously and concretely to fight climate change. So that's exactly what we did as a party. We sat down and put together the most ambitious platform to fight climate change this country has ever seen. We're going to be putting a cap on all oil and gas sector emissions and decreasing those emissions until we reach net zero. We're going to be moving forward aggressively on electric cars and a net zero electric grid. We're going to be continuing our work to ban plastics. We're going to be continuing to protect more of our land and oceans than ever before, and we have both the track record, the team, the experience, and the know-how to do exactly that. But like I said, don't take my word for it. Check in with the experts, the top climate scientists in the country, the top policy experts, the top climate economists in the country, people like the former Green Party leader of British Columbia, people like some of the top academics like Mark Jacquard have said unequivocally that it is the Liberal Party of Canada that has, hands down, the very best plan to fight climate change. Better, of course, than the Conservatives, but also better than the NDP plan, better than the Green plan. So in this election, and right now we're in that moment where I know progressives across this country are facing a bit of a struggle because we're always there as progressives. We want, on the one hand, to make sure that we don't get a Conservative government elected that's going to take us back. That is always one of the top priorities for progressives. But But progressives, we're also idealists and dreamers, and we want to be ambitious for the future. So we also are torn in that we want to vote for the party with the best plan for climate change, the best plan to support workers and to support families, and the best plan to invest in healthcare and to move our country forward. Well, in this election, all of you can know that the party with both the ability to stop the Conservatives and the best plan is the Liberal Party of Canada. So I need you to get out there. J'ai besoin que vous alliez cogner des portes, que vous vous mobilisiez, que vous parlez à vos voisins, à vos amis pour souligner à quel point le choix est clair. Est-ce qu'on laisse les conservateurs nous ramener en arrière ou est-ce qu'on choisit d'avancer ensemble? I need you in the coming hours that are left to make phone calls to your friends and colleagues and fellow citizens to talk about the positive vision we're putting forward, talk about our ambitious plan on childcare, on housing, on guns, on gun control, on supporting our elders, and on fighting climate change, and tell them that in this election, right now, Canadians have the opportunity to move forward for everyone. Merci beaucoup tout le monde. Merci.